So today on our podcast we have Gail, aka the Water Whisperer. Gail and I met probably about 6 months ago now at an awards that I was hosting, and Gail was an awardee at that time. She's also gone on to win many different awards all around teaching people how to swim. So today we've got Gail at the house. Welcome, Gail.
Oh, thanks, Craig. Hi.
It's
Thanks
great to see you. Thanks for
Yeah.
coming over to the bar. This is Mr. and Mrs. DIY's podcast bar.
It's amazing. I absolutely love it.
And we haven't even got a glass of wine or a beer. Would
It's
you
okay.
like one?
I'm going to be training later, so
I know
it's all
you
right.
look very fit and trainy and sporty.
Yeah, I do a lot
Wouldn't
of training.
dare offer you a drink of beer. So listen, Gail, we'll go into a little bit more detail later. You're teaching our 2 children to swim, aren't you, at the moment?
Yeah.
But before we get to that, I want to know a little bit more about you, your background, you know, even right down to school. Did you enjoy school life? Did you swim then? Were you taught to swim? Or
Yeah, well, funnily enough, there's an old black and white photograph of me playing, you know, the classic story that you buy the car for the little pretend car for your little babies, and they want to play with the box. Right, so I've got a tub of water, the old washing up bowl with a spoon, and I used to spend hours stirring up the water.
Did you? And why was that? What was that
I
for
have
you?
no clue.
So you're kind of obsessed with water at a young age, would you say?
Yeah, that's what my mum said. Apparently I could swim when I was 3.
You could swim yourself when you were 3?
Yeah, mum said I could swim when I can't quite remember that.
Yeah.
And then one of the things that wasn't so good is that I remember getting my bottom stuck in a rubber ring when I was little, and I tipped upside down and I couldn't get out. And thankfully my brother tipped me back up again, but I can remember that still like quite scary, but it didn't really affect me luckily. I went on to train. I went to swimming club when I was 7, and then I went on to compete in galas and stuff like that. When I was 18, I did all my qualifications for a swimming teacher and started my own swim school. I've just had swimming in my blood from day one.
Right back from day one, isn't
Yeah.
it? So going back to that then, you can't quite remember, you're only 3 years of age, but you came into an encounters of kind of being quite terrified of water at one point. If you've tippled over, I'm trying to imagine that now. I've had a few scary moments when I was a kid, and I'll tell you about a moment, but tippling over like that, you know, I can't really ask you what was going through your mind, but do you think by having something that's frightened you has given you a little bit more strength in a way to want to be able to swim or teach more people to swim, do you think?
Yeah, well, I suppose now as an adult, I can realise that it happens that quick. That quick. A parent can go, oh, little Billy's taking his armbands off. What have you done with your armbands, Billy? And they go like that to get the armbands. Next minute, Billy slipped under the water, got no sort of, as I call it, water balance, and they can't stand up. Even if they can't, children in shallow water, I've had several times parents have called me and said, my little one was standing right next to me and I was talking to my husband and we didn't notice that they'd slipped underwater and couldn't get back up again and they were drowning. So it's just, I'm very passionate obviously about spreading the word and getting everybody to swim. You know, it's never too late, however old you are.
Yeah, of course. Tell us about the qualifications that you have to have for that.
So you have to have a swimming teacher's qualification to be able to teach swimming. I've got an advanced swimming teacher's qualification, which is a little bit higher than sort of regular swimming teacher's qualifications. And then I've also got mums and baby qualification on top of that.
Excellent.
Teach everybody.
Everybody. So, would you say when it comes to teaching people to swim, it's easier to teach them as a child or an adult?
Yeah, as a child really, because they don't have as many fears, and if they do, I can normally get rid of them pretty quickly. I've got little techniques of trying to stop children from crying, because there's, you know, nobody wants the children crying in swimming lessons, but unfortunately it does happen. And one of the big things is just trying to get the parents out the way. Even if I say just go over there and turn the back on the little one, because if the parents are there, it's a little bit like putting petrol on a fire, and it'll just be worse and worse. So if I can't get them away from the parent, I'll ask them to blow on my hand, or I'll ask them, like, what have you done today? What do you like on telly? What have you been playing today? So I basically use distraction techniques to calm them down, and then again within a minute or so they're like, ooh, back to swimming again, and they're happy.
Yeah, they're focused on it. So what would you say are the most things that can kind of build up a fear in a child? Because I'm thinking, you know, if there's mums watching this and they've got a young child and they're wanting to take them to a swimming class, what is it the things that they've got to avoid, or what can build them up the most kind of fear for going into the water? Or
To take the fears away, you mean? How to get them? Yeah. I'm a big fan of armbands because I've also been a lifeguard as long as I've been a swimming teacher. I was one of the first female lifeguards in Merseyside on the beach. Probably it might have been in the UK. So I've seen and I've worked around lots of open air swimming pools and on the pool side of indoor pools. Can never remember having to save a child that wore armbands. So, you know, they work, very simple, they work. I've also had parents phone me up and said, oh, little Billy can just swim, you know, 1 metre in the shallow end. I can't get him to go in the deep end. And I'm like, well, hate to say this, but Billy's right and you're wrong. If you haven't got a strong swimmer, don't encourage them to go into the deep end when they can't even swim in the shallow end. Yeah. So it's just taking your time. A lot of play in the water, play in your bath at home. I tell parents to get the toys, even put your costume on and have the bath at home, your playtime. And then now obviously we've got online, show them online that the swimming pool is just a bigger bath with more people in it. So I try to water it right down so the child sees the swimming pool environment as not a hostile place because we've already done it in the bath at home. So those kind of exercises and blowing bubbles and, like I say, having the armbands on, it gives them a lot more mobility than, as I call a child, monkeying and scared stiff around a parent's neck.
So tend to what they want to do, isn't it? Is just cling on to the parents, isn't it?
Yeah. Another thing that I see quite a lot, again, when someone can't swim, I call it a flying lesson because they're just dipping the child in the water. They might have them in a horizontal position, so they're in a kind of position to swim, but they'll just go woo, woo, woo. And what happens is they'll end up getting a little bit more cold because they're not under the water. And again, they're not really getting anything out of it if they're just tapping the knees and the toes in the water. You really need to be sort of, you know, submerged and feeling the buoyancy of the water.
Yes, of course, yeah. So do you think half the battle is actually educating the parents as well as the kids? Do you predominantly teach children or do you teach adults as well?
No, I teach adults as well, full range, right up to, you know, sort of 80-year-olds or 80 young year old people have come to me, and it's never too late. Especially if you could swim when you were younger and something bad happened, unfortunately, and then it scared you and you've never gone since. There's been many a time I've had a 70-year-old lady who said, oh, I could swim when I was 10, but I got pushed in and I was, you know, breathed, inhaled a little bit, made me cough. I've been scared ever since, never come back to me. It's always whatever they could do then is still there when I teach them. If they said to me I could swim a mile in, you know, Olympic level of 15 minutes or under, that's unlikely to be there because that's more of a fitness thing. But the technique will still be there. And again, you can't expect too much from someone because even if I've not swam for a while and I am relatively fit with my sports, if I go into a pool, I've got to train to get that fitness back again. So yeah, it's great to see the difference. And with children, I love seeing the way the confidence builds in the little one. You can see that in their school life and in other areas of their life once they've learned to swim. I have parents say to me, oh, he wants to go to football now, we're scared of going to football, or they're having a much better time at school. One little story was great is a little girl called Macy came to me and she was having some issues at school. She was getting bullied at school. And school swimming was coming up and the parents were really worried about how she was going to cope with school swimming. Anyway, it turned out that she came on a 4-day learn to swim to call 4-day, which is 1 hour a day with me. She learnt breaststroke and backstroke, front crawl. I think she swam something like 200 metres in just that short space of time. But when she went to school, she was the best one in swimming and it turned her life around because she was the hero then at school and it just changed her life.
So that's brilliant, kind of seeing how you can turn the child's kind of mindset round in just a small space of time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful.
So I know you've won many awards, haven't you? Yeah. Tell us a little bit about some of the awards you've won. One of the awards was, when I met you, was the Sporting Achievement Award with the Liverpool Echo. I won that award last year. It was absolutely... There was no words. I was so happy that I won that award. You seemed very happy when you come up on stage, yeah. I remember
it. They apparently called me flamboyant, and that's when they asked me to come back and present it the following year.
That's right, yeah.
So yeah, that was lovely, and the team at the Echo were absolutely fantastic with me. Yeah, and then prior to that, 2016, I was a finalist for Sports Personality of the year. That was great. I was one of the finalists there. Cosmopolitan Businesswoman of the Year award. That's going back a few years. Again, that was national. I got to the finals. Options Magazine regional winner. And again, I got to the finals of there. I've been several of the parents have nominated me for an award through the Amateur Swimming Association, and I've been awarded dedication to teaching children to swim. I'm sure there's some more, but I can't think off the top of my head what else I've got. But yeah, first female beach lifeguard, which again was an honour because I was up against all the boys. So there was just me and all the lads at the time on the beach, because again that was quite hardcore. You had to do the sea test in just your bikini, in just your costume. There was no wetsuits or anything. Yeah. And I'd just been to Cyprus for a week. And so obviously I was acclimatised to the Cyprus weather, and literally the next day I had to do my water test. It was April.
Was that here in the UK then?
Yeah, this was on Southport Beach. This was in April. But the thing is some of my friends saw me a week later looking, I don't really want to say this word, but like a bag lady, and forgive me for that, but I had 80 layers on, not looking quite very well in town like this, still walking around absolutely freezing.
It's hard, isn't it? Yeah. I've done a couple of triathlons, and I've got a small wetsuit on doing that, and still find it cold going in the UK water. Yeah, still find it cold here.
Yeah, it's very cold. I do. I mean, the thing is, when you rescue somebody, and I've done loads of rescues over the years, you don't really think about the temperature or anything. That you just adrenaline's on, and you're off to make sure you can get to that person, and they're safe. So you don't think about that at the time, but when it's training, it's a different kettle of fish. You're aware of how cold cold it is.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I was on the front page of the Echo at the time with a lovely picture of Pamela Anderson, and there was Pamela Anderson all glammed up in a costume, looking absolutely stunning, and I felt like I was like that.
You still got on the front page of the newspaper. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. So you probably wouldn't be able to say, but how many children or adults do you think you've taught in your life to swim?
Probably maybe 7,000 to 10,000. I'm not sure if that's
7,000 to 10,000.
Yeah, wow. Probably. Because sometimes I've had big swim schools where I've been. How I ran it then when I've had bigger swim schools, I've had a teacher with each class, so they've been doing their thing, but then I've been overseeing each class. I'll go to one class for a few minutes, and the next, it's all on the same pool side in a large pool. So I'm still kind of feel that I'm going, we need to improve on that, we need to improve on this. So when children come to my swimming classes, I try to explain that I teach the children to swim the moment they come in. So, of course, there are many different ways of teaching a child to swim, but I've done this now for 40 years. And I find that if I go straight into the technique, so I'll teach breaststroke and backstroke as the very first lesson, very first strokes. And I find once the children are getting mobile in the water, then they sort of have the fear seem to melt. They get the confidence up to do the things like the blowing bubbles and the pushing glides. So I don't really focus on the pushing glides and the blowing bubbles. I do that, but the technique comes first for me, and then I incorporate that as more play towards the end of the lesson. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't spend a whole lesson or a very long time on just blowing bubbles or mushroom floats or things like that. I find that's more important really, to teach a child to swim and then try and do it the other way around. But I know quite a lot of swim schools go for the build, find that they feel that the building up confidence is right for them. So I think that's how I differ.
Yeah. And do you think it's very different for you as a teacher to teach a child to swim than maybe a teenager or an adult? Different fear factors set into teenagers or adults because they could have had a poor experience in water. Do you think it's harder or easier?
Yeah, I think children, for me, are easier to swim, to teach to swim. I think adults are a little bit more set because they've had that fear for so long. But it's very rare that I've not taught anybody to swim as long as they stick with it. I can remember a gentleman called Dave. He was in his 60s, nearly 70, and he just went 100 miles an hour and got nowhere. And he wasn't breathing properly, he was holding his breath, so we had to slow the stroke down and obviously get the stroke right. But I was so proud of him because he came back about a year later and went, I've swam a mile and I've done this and I've done that and I've learned to dive in.
And he'd gone all the way through to pretty much 70 years of age with not being able to swim. And then he just turned around then.
It's lovely to see that he got kind of the basics for me, and then he went off and did you know, progressed his stroke and improved his stroke and improved, you know, things like I didn't want to do at the time, diving in deep water, if I remember, with me. And then I remember another lady coming back and showing me a photographs that she was able to go snorkeling, which she'd always wanted to do. And again, she was 40s or 50s. So it's lovely to see that swimming again opens doors to other sports that you know you're just going to be terrified of doing if you don't want to go near the water.
And that is fantastic. One of the most loveliest things I've ever done. I've done a lot of scuba diving and not so much deep sea diving, drift diving and things as well. I got my advanced diving in that and done many shipwrecks and you know many places around the world. Swam with manta rays and all sorts of things like that. Close encounters with some sharks and things, so it's a different world, isn't it, under the water when you go off the surface down lower down to the bottom. It is a great experience. So you mentioned a moment ago that you know there's a lot of different ways of teaching kids or adults how to swim. In what ways, how can you describe that, or what makes you kind of like different? How can you make it different than what someone else would if they were teaching?
Well, obviously I don't go around every swim school to know exactly what they are and aren't doing. I guess I feel I can only sort of speak about my own swim school. I've been an athlete my entire life. I've competed on and off in all sorts of, from swimming to ultra-fit competitions, bodybuilding competitions and stuff like that. So I've incorporated the way I teach children to swim and to get their stamina up, just the way that I do for myself, you know, the way I've trained myself over the years. I'm also a qualified PT. So I have the parents in the water, which again, I don't think any other swim schools do that apart from mums and babies, that's normal. But once they get to maybe, you know, 5 or 6, they're on their own. But a thing that's different for me is that let's just say we've got 6 children in the swimming pool and we're all working on backstroke legs. So let's say we've got your Nelly. Nelly's fantastic, by the way. We'll hopefully talk about how fast she's learned to swim later. Let's just say Nelly doesn't want to put her ears back. So we need to have your ears back because you can't really swim with your head up out the water, and a lot of kids don't want to get their ears wet. So I'll say to Laura, if you go behind Nelly, put your hand out, ask Nelly to put her head back and make eye contact with her. And keep talking to her and telling her to bubble her toes. So obviously I'll say, right, ears under, bubble your toes. We're going to work on bubbling your toes. So I give my instructions to the children, then I instruct the parents. So as Laura goes off, she can go, come on, that's it, Nelly, keep looking at mummy. That's it, that's super, bubble your toes. Whereas if Nelly was by herself, she might do it for 2 meters and then be going, oh, I wonder what's on telly tonight. And they kind of like go off to the chippies, I call it. So I try to make all my mums or my dads that are in the pool little mini me. So I give them all instructions, and then maybe let's say Lennon will put his ears under, but it's called, his legs are like, I'll say riding a bike. So his legs are sort of all over the place. So he'll get a float over his knees to correct that. And they'll have, so you're with Lennon, so you've got different instructions as you've experienced on what to do with Lennon, even though we're all still doing backstroke leg kicks. So I still give all that individual attention to the children on how to improve their stroke as an individual, even though we're in a group setting. So I think that helps. And then if the parents are in the pool with me, they've obviously picked up all the language that I use with the children, because, you know, I communicate with 2 and 3 year olds, so I make my language very simple. Excuse me. And then they can go home and practice that, or they can practice that in the swimming pool. Some things you can practice just sat down at home, little simple things, again, that I give the parents to do. Do some things in the bath if they're really scared and they don't want to put the face in and blow bubbles. I say, let's just take the worry out of the swimming pool environment and just practice at home. And I had a lovely little video a few weeks ago of a little lad who was just going mad underwater, and it was like the week before, wouldn't do it in the swimming lesson, and then he was doing it all in the bath at home. So it does work by doing it at home. It really does help. It's lovely.
That little boy of me she's talking about. So you just mentioned Nelly and Lennon on their classes. How do you think they're coming along? And you can be honest with me. Are we bad parents?
No, absolutely fabulous.
Are we the ones doing everything wrong, and you're trying to teach us more than the kids?
No, well, as you know, I did stalk you out at the award ceremony to ask you if you could help with part of, you know, trying to get the TV show going and stuff, because I think you're perfect, because you know, you've got a family environment there and 2 little babbers, both young. Nelly, I was like, oh, goodness, because when you break it down. Nelly's already swimming on her back.
Yes.
She achieved that in 3
without
swimming
armbands as
without
well.
Without armbands, yes. Swimming on her back. That was achieved all within three swimming lessons with me. And if you kind of break that down and think, well, how much time did she actually have on her back? It was literally minutes for her to swim on her back.
Yes.
So, because we haven't done the whole 25 minutes, because 5 minutes is play, of being on Nelly practicing on her back. We've done all sorts of stuff, haven't we? We've done, you know, we've done some safety things. We've done Humpty Dumpties to get in and out the pool, jumping in and out the pool, blowing bubbles. We've done breaststroke arms, breaststroke legs. So when you look at Nelly's body position, she's really nice and flat, because let's just say this is Nelly's head and this is the feet. Some children are like that. We've got Nelly nice and flat, which is what we need on top of the water. You'll see how her toes are bubbling. It's one of my favourite little things to say to the children. Bubble your toes, make bubbles with your toes. That's it, that's really good. I'll say stretch and be nice and tall in the water, which helps them from having the kind of sinky position, because they can have the bottoms down a little bit. So I'll say stretch like a big tall tree. So how we got to that with Nelly is that Laura was had her hands under
her head, wasn't it?
Under her head, and I'll say start to tap. So we start to tap, and I see how Nelly responded. So if they kind of get a bit of a wobble on and have a bit of a panic, I'll say, well, right, we need to do this a bit longer before we start to tap. Or I might explain to the child that here's your head, and mummy's just like that. She's there, so she's not gone off, because they can really think that the mum's, you know, sort of completely gone off there. So Laura just started to tap. Nelly was great. She didn't respond badly. She just carried on swimming, which is what I want. And then you let go for a little bit longer, and then a little bit longer, and then that's it. Before you know, they've done the length, which is exactly what happened with Nelly.
That's right, yeah. And I can recall doing the same again with you with Nelly and with Lennon. A kid naturally, when they're lying down in flat, you mentioned a moment ago, they don't like their ears going under the water, do they?
No.
Straight away. And we found they were kind of wanting to tense up that little bit and kind of do a sit-up, weren't they? That's what we found naturally with our two. And by kind of, remember you said to me, I was trying to get Lennon and Nelly to look up at the sky or look up at the ceiling. And when you said, put your hands behind their head and try and get them to eye contact with me. Because I'm standing behind them, children are here. And once they could see that I'm there behind them, I'm holding them, I could feel the rest of their body just relax, which they need to be relaxed, don't they? Get their buoyancy a little bit better, as opposed to trying to fighting it. And that really worked, just that little technique of the eye contact, as opposed to them, you know, keep your head up, keep your body flat. It worked, you know, it really did work well.
Yes, definitely. I think that's a really big part of it, that they see the parents are right there, and I think that eye contact gives a little bit of a bond and safety aspect for the little ones to believe that they're going to be able to do it, whatever mums or dad's saying to them, and the instructions that I'm giving them. So really, I'm always saying make eye contact, and be you know, always good praising words, even if it's bad, still praise the good parts, you know. But obviously nothing's been like that with Nelly. She's just been Little Mermaid from day one. And so, like I say, I'm so proud, happy for you that she achieved that in just such a short space of time. So I've got big things hopefully for Nelly. We might get a quarter of a mile out of her while she's still 3 years old, which I've achieved a few times, so we'll see.
She's almost managing that full pool at the minute, isn't she?
Yeah,
on her back,
she's doing 10 metres now on her back, so we're getting there, brilliant.
And on average with children like that, you know, 4 or 5 lessons we've had with you, and as you say, when you break down a half an hour, they're only actually doing 5 or so minutes on each item on there. On average with a child starting from scratch, what would you say time-wise it would take, you know, a 4 or 5 year old from first time swimming lesson to completion on average? I know some are better than others, but what do you think?
Well, I did Google a while ago, how long does it take a child to learn to swim and complete 100 metres, and it said 2 years. And I've done it in 11 minutes. Yeah, I've done it in 11 minutes recently.
Wow.
So, I mean, I can only again talk about my swim school. I've had one of my highest achievers was a little girl called Macy, and in 4 one-hour lessons, she couldn't swim when she started. She could literally just do doggy paddle, not even from here to the wall. And she learned breaststroke, backstroke, front crawl, butterfly. She swam 1/4 mile on the very first lesson from a non-swimmer, which I've achieved several times, many times with children. And on the 3rd lesson, I had a chat to Dad. Dad was coming and said, is it okay if we go for the half mile? So she did the half mile. And to be honest, I kind of regret I didn't go for the mile, because she's just had so much beans in her, you know, she's still ready to go. So breaststroke, backstroke, front crawl, butterfly, and half a mile and 1/4 mile. So again, if you peel that back to, she actually learned the techniques in 3 one-hour lessons, because the 4th hour was spent doing the 2 distance swims. So in answer to your question, average, it's a little bit tricky, but maybe 3 to 6 months we can on average. But again, you know, some kids can just zoom through it, and other kids can be, you know, have challenges, and it's really difficult for them. Oh, going back to the awards again, if you don't mind I mention that, Craig. It was noted at the awards that I've been able to teach children to swim with challenges whose health professionals told their parents they will never learn to swim. Okay. And I'm so proud of this for the parents, that one little boy in particular, he did take a lot longer, but he learned breaststroke, backstroke, he could jump in deep water, get himself out of deep water, swim to the shallow end, and that was a bigger pool than the one that you're attending. And I can remember writing, because his parents were absolutely heartbroken when they got told this, and they spoke to me, and I can remember writing his first certificate out for 10 or 15 metres and going to his, he wouldn't have got it, but to his parents, like, take that to your health professional. Especially with children, scared children, children with challenges, I always say, just never say never. No. Another little boy called Bobby that I had, he had challenges, and he wouldn't communicate at all with you. And again, his parents said to me, he's only got 10 seconds of an attention span. So obviously I'm thinking that's going to be tricky. Within 3 months, he was swimming half a mile, and he could do doggy paddle. Because I started off with doggy paddle, because again, his attention was really quite difficult for breaststroke legs. And he swam backstroke half a mile, and that was in about 3 months that I achieved that. So I was so happy. Amazing, and what was really, really, I don't know, questionable maybe, is on the first day, I'll always treat everybody the same, and then I'll assess what I think they can take on, what they're going to, which approach for me to take for them to learn to swim quicker. Because again, if you've got children with physical disabilities, again, you might mix breaststroke with front crawl legs, so to speak. Anyway, so I started breaststroke leg kick with Bobby, and he was just taking no notice. He was just, you know, his little eyes were all over the place. So he wasn't taking it in. So I chose to go with doggy paddle and backstroke. And then once he'd achieved that, his parents didn't tell me that this particular lesson was his last lesson until the end of it. I tried to do breaststroke leg kick again with him, and he got it like that, just with the children without challenges. I was like, oh, you know, I'm going to be able to teach him breaststroke. But then they told me that day that was his last lesson. They were going to Spain. I was like, no, I want him here. I've not finished yet. So lots of lovely stories of children that the parents with quite extreme challenges, and the parents think, you know, it's never going to happen for them, and I've been able to achieve great things. Another little boy, I'm afraid I can't say his name, he's come from, let's just say, a very difficult background, and he's with a foster parent now. And when he first came to me, it was almost like he had Tourette's. He was just going bob, cat, pool, ball. There was no communication. Again, he was overwhelmed with the swimming pool. And he's got a quite extreme cerebral palsy. He was on like a walker when he came in, and he started with me. This is hats off to his foster carer. You can have a conversation with him now. He's had lots of physio. He's had some operations. He walked onto the poolside a few weeks ago, and I just broke down. I was like, oh no, this is wonderful. However, he has been able to do breaststroke, backstroke, front crawl, and he swam 200 metres. And that's with COVID going on as well, you know. And this is a child that you couldn't have a conversation with when he started. So anyone who's got little babies or children out there with challenges, just never say never on what they can achieve in their life. I just try to get that message across to the parents. And children that have been my most extreme cases with children that haven't got challenges but with fears, they've gone on to compete and become swimming teachers and lifeguards. So again, really? Never say never.
That's brilliant, isn't it? So what makes you so passionate then about it? Because I can feel the passion oozing out here for it.
Oh, it's not a job to me. I get the kids are like so amazing. They come out with all sorts of funny things. And I think I call it having a mum moment, and I still get them now after 40 years. When I've seen someone struggle or someone achieve something amazing, I go, I'm having a mum moment. Because I'm very sergeant, as you know, I'm very sergeant major on the poolside. I say I'm like military with love. Yep. But I'm a boxer fluffy
I'm scared of doing anything wrong.
I know. What I'm saying when we've got a group on and say, right, come on, everybody pay attention. All the parents go like that. All their eyes pop out and they're all like, yes, Gail, no, Gail, 3 bags full, Gail. So I just love seeing how I know I know for me, for the gift that it was for me, for my mum taking me to swimming club. And I want that for all my kids to be as good as, without being a diva, or even better than me at swimming, because it stays with you for life. And I have a little joke with the adults and I say, you know what, I still turn heads. It's when I'm face down in the swimming pool swimming on holiday, people stop and watch me. Not so sure about walking down the street these days. But yeah, I love what I do. It's great and the kids are great. And a few weeks ago I was in a restaurant, and I don't know if I've got a bit of telepathy, but sometimes when I walk in a room, even if I don't know people, they'll sometimes just start talking about swimming. And I sat down in a restaurant having something to eat, and I heard these two ladies behind me going, that Gail Rickett taught me swimming. And I went, because obviously that's me. And I didn't want to say anything nasty. So straight away, I wasn't sure what the next sentence was going to be. So I turned around and said, I'm Gail. And she went, and it was like fully grown adult. And,
they were talking about their childhood.
They were talking about their childhood,
some time back,
this adult.
Recently, no?
No, I just walked in. Because the lady was older. She was a grown-up adult, obviously, in this bar, in a restaurant, hotel bar where I was having my meal. But when she turned round, I was inside, I kind of went, because she was like, I said, how old are you? And she went, I'm 37. And I was like, so how old does that make me?
But that's good they're still talking about it.
Yeah, very true.
It's set in their memory. But
Yeah.
I suppose it's like, there's few things in your life you only learn once, don't you? You learn to ride a bike, you learn to drive your car, you learn to swim, a few things like that, isn't it? So you probably do. Many people would have good memories of them that stick with them for life, don't they? Because they're skills for life, aren't they?
Yeah.
Gail, do you think enough's been done in schools for teaching young kids to swim?
Well, I'd like to see more done, because unfortunately, according to recent statistics from the Amateur Swimming Association, 1 in 3 children still can't swim after leaving primary school.
Wow, 1 in 3. It's quite high, isn't it?
Yeah, that's bad.
So, on a little bit more of a darker note, what sort of fatalities would there be from people drowning in the world, for instance? Yeah,
and the worldwide, on a global scale, according to the World Health Organization, 236,000 people drown a year. And if you think about a lifetime of someone's, 82 years we're here, that runs into millions. I think it's something like 19 million off the top of my head, doing quick maths.
19 million, in someone's entire lifestyle.
Of people drown. Yeah, all those lives wasted,
That is terrifying,
ended
isn't it? Yeah.
Badly.
And what would that be in the kind of the UK? How many people would lose their lives?
According to the Royal Life Saving Society, it's around 400 people drown a year.
400 just in the UK alone?
Yeah, that was 2021 stats that I found recently. Yeah, it's dreadful. I just hate to think about anyone getting into difficulties. I had pneumonia a long time ago, and I had some breathing difficulties with that, and I just couldn't think of anything worse than drowning. So yeah, I'm very passionate about trying to get people involved. It's not that scary. Face your fears. Find a great swimming teacher. Find someone that you're comfortable to talk to, and they'll be understanding, because lots of people have had fears. Swimming teachers, I'm sure lots of swimming teachers, doctors, everybody scared of spiders, scared of heights. Everybody's got something. So you can get over the old face your fear to sort of get over it. And I've seen so many adults, and again so many kids over the years that have been, as I say, cracking glass. There was a little, they're so scared, they're upset. There was a little boy just only a few weeks ago, and he was in the car having a monster wobble. And I always say, just get them onto the pool side. I can take over from there. And he was all upset and nervous and shaking. And I calmed him right down, got him in the swimming pool with his dad. He was happy to get into the water. And again, within about 3 lessons, he was swimming lengths of breaststroke. In about 5 lessons, he'd done breaststroke, backstroke and front crawl. So again, just... You can't, I suppose, drag kids kicking and screaming, but just keep on trying, until you get there. Do the practices at home, show them the things online, take them to the swimming pool in a safe environment, with mum and dad maybe and armbands on, stuff like that, make it fun. Yeah. I did have a scary moment myself, and it wasn't down to my swimming abilities. I'm not the strongest swimmer. I was a bit fearful of water when I was a kid. Probably only started to learn to swim, I'd probably say about 8 or 9. When we were allowed to go to the baths on our own, and we've got my cousins, one family has got 4 boys, the other family's got 4 boys, and they're all older and bigger than me, sort of thing. So I was always the little one going to the swimming pool, get splashed and things. So I never had the full confidence there, but what built my confidence up when I was an adult
was doing the diving, you know, the scuba diving. And I'd probably done about 100 or so dives.
Wow.
Getting quite experienced, really enjoying it. Lovely experiences all around the world, and dive with the Navy as well, which was good experiences in the Ascension Islands. But the one scary one, that kind of put me off a little bit, and it got me to a point where I kind of thought enough's enough. It was a close encounter. I was out in, I can't remember where I was now. I think it was Sharm el Sheikh, I think. And I was out with a girlfriend at the time, and she wasn't a strong diver, and I was more experienced. So I booked to go on this group dive where you go out on the boat 2 or 3 hours away, and then you go off the side of the boat and you go quite deep in things. So she said, I won't come, you know. It was a bit out of her limit where she was. So I went along on this boat, and when you get there, you pack all your stuff in your boxes and things that I'd been using all week, you know, and I'd done about 12 or 15 dives that week. And I left them on the side of the pier. And you just get on the boat, and the people running the boat carry all them on for you, you know, and put them all away. So I just forgot about my stuff, goes on there. Not forgot about it, left it where I should, goes on about it. 2 or 3 hours later, we get to the dive spot, and everyone starts putting their stuff on, and they buddied me up with a German lady there. Couldn't speak much English, but it's not a problem because you're below the water. Language doesn't matter as long as you know all the symbols and signs you have to do. So I'm looking around for my kit. It's not there. Everyone's putting their masks on, putting their buoyancy jackets on, their weights on. And I'm looking around, mine's gone. They didn't load mine on. So I was a bit like, 2 or 3 hours now in a boat, and I'm not going to get to do a dive. You know, and we'd had all the briefing, we dropped down, we pull in adrift, we find something, there's 2 dive sites, wrecks, that we were going to go down to see. I thought, oh no, and the guy said, no worries at all. These were the Egyptian guys on the boat. They said, we've got a few bits. So they started scouting around, found, oh, here's a set of goggles, here's a weight, they'll do, here's a tank. And me heart to heart, I was thinking, this doesn't feel good, and I probably shouldn't use all this equipment that looks old, hasn't probably been tested, and I hadn't used it, you know. I was familiar with what I was using, but I couldn't resist it, could I? I thought, I've got to do it. So I got all kitted up, checked me air, checked me emergency air. We all went off the side, and the agreement was we went down 22 metres, we all group, we're fine. We go down a little bit more, that's going to pull us into a drift. When we get to about 25, 30, it'll pull us into a particular point, and he's explained all the contours. When the drift will stop pulling you, you pull to the right. So you've got all that in your mind, it's going to do that. It goes off backwards, drops to 20, gets me buoyant. Everyone else dropping. There's probably about 12 or 15 of us. Everybody's like that. I'm like, all fine. We start to drop down that little bit more, and then the current starts to pull us then. And if you're not experienced, you know, panic can set in, you're breathing quick. But I was calm. I've done all this before. We started to get pulled. And we're going and going. Next minute, my ear just went. And I was like, blah. And I was a bit. So I checked my tank to see. Yeah. As when you check with your buddy, you check if it can turn on and off and it's going well. And she checked my air on my emergency one. And I'm thinking, has she turned it off? Or turned it right the way down? And I was getting a bit of air in, but not enough, you know, and I'm looking and we're getting pulled, and probably about 28 metres, you know, you can't shoot straight up to the top at that point. So my first thing is, well, lean, get my emergency one, pulls it round. That, again, not getting enough in. It was like intermittent, but just a tiny little bit. So I think, where's my buddy? I can't see it. Normally you should stay quite close, but I mean, we were getting pulled, and I'm looking, I can't see it. People are low, people are a lot further away. Some have gone, you know, 20, 30 metres. The visibility, they're just a mere dot. Don't even know if they're a person. And then I spotted the dive instructor, not the instructor, the guide, let's call him. And I could recognise his yellow flippers. So I'm power swimming, and I'm going with the drift power swimming to pull his things behind to say, I'm out of air, you know. And he quickly goes like that, pointing to the other one. I'm like, the other one's out. The other one's not working. So he gets his one, his spare one. I get his, start to get his spare one isn't working. and I'm going, and he can see no bubbles are coming out.
Yeah.
I can see the fear in his eyes. Maybe 45 seconds, a minute has nearly gone then, and I was real fit and strong doing triathlons, but I hadn't had a chance to get a full breath in to do that. I was only 20-30% in.
Swinging on it.
I know, honestly. Do you know what? It gave me nightmares for many weeks and months afterwards. And I was like, so he realises he's got to share his main one was working. So he gives me some, I get a little bit in, and I'm saying to him, I've got to go up, I've got to go up. And he's saying, no. And then basically, when I was giving him his back, he wasn't wanting to share it over, and I could sense panic in him as the guide, and they're the ones who's supposed to be looking after you, sort of thing. And then I just, all of a sudden, it come over to me, I'm thinking, I'm going to pass out. I can feel my body, and I've done other sports like Thai boxing and things, so I've been knocked out and I've been concussed and things, different areas, and I'm thinking, I'm going to go here, and my energy levels just dropped. So I thought, I've got no option, I've got to drop my belt, try and get some air in my buoyancy jacket, and it starts to shoot me up quick, which I know is very dangerous and not advisable to do, but I was left with no option. And then he we started a bit wrestling in the water, because once he's seen I dropped my belt and I'm trying to pump my jacket up, my buoyancy vest up to take me up, he's realising I'm going to rock it up there now. We're nearly 30. When we're struggling, we're starting to drop down to about 34, 36.
So he was really like, he's not like wanting to give you his...
Yeah, he got hold of me things, so I just thought, I got no option now. He did give me it again for one more to just get in like that, and then he was having it back, but I was getting that odd in, but it just wasn't enough. I was still feeling like I'm going to faint. So I just thought, he's not letting me go up, so I pulled his belt off and just held on to him. Then I thought, because I haven't got the energy to take me to the top, to swim me to the top, and my jacket wasn't blowing up because my tank wasn't working. So I wasn't getting the air in the jacket. So I just thought, took his belt, because it just pulls off, doesn't it? And literally press his button, and his jacket started to go. So the both of us just started to, and you know yourself, when you get 20, 15, 10, you're going faster and faster, and we literally bolted out of the water. And normally you would stop at 5 meters, wouldn't you, and do your 3 minutes. And I think you were to get all the air back in your blood and brain and stuff. We didn't have time to do the 3 minute stop. We were just poof out the top. And I can remember it because it haunted me for weeks. He was kind of maybe shouting at me or whatever, and it was just like a blah, blah. That's all I could hear from. And it was this weird, warm kind of sensation. And then he got to the top, he was messing around with something, he got my jacket pumped up a little bit, and then we just both kind of boinded around until he set his thing off, and the boat was circling anyway, within half a mile or so. The boat comes back and gets us in, and I was so exhausted from it. For the 2 or 3 hour journey home, I didn't even have the energy in me to question the stuff or explain, I didn't have the physical energy in me to do it.
Oh
I was just literally zonked.
You didn't get the bends then from coming up so fast or anything?
Well, we thought I did, because I was just like drunk, feeling on this boat like that, and it was just kind of, it was quite a nice feeling on the boat. It was kind of a nice feeling. I've survived this very, a technical thing that could have went wrong, that low below the water, and the boat brought everybody back. Everybody was going off, and then my friend come to kind of see, and she could see I was just white, and she was just like, "Are you okay?" And I didn't have the energy to tell her what had happened, until we got back to the hotel, and then I could explain it a little bit more then. But then literally I kind of like went asleep, and I was just going in and out of sleepiness. It didn't have to have any medical treatment. By 3 or 4 hours later, I was kind of okay, but just energy levels zapped. And then from scuba diving to depths or drift diving, it's put me off that now. I'll only do shallow scuba diving, 15, 18 meters maximum, and calm and safely sort of thing, as opposed to doing any challenges and deep sea dives. So that's up there with horrendous. It's really experienced it. And it was nothing down to my swimming strength or ability in any way. It was just the equipment was not suitable for what we were doing, at the time. So Gail, that's only my kind of real kind of fear factor, from that one-off experience. And I say this in a way where I love scuba diving, and I felt as if having done hundreds of dives, I've seen enough now to be able to kind of, you know, hang the gloves up type of thing and say, I can retire from that. And I wouldn't dare try and put anybody off from scuba diving because it's a wonderful sport to do and you can get so many amazing experiences. So from my negative experience onto a more positive one. I believe you've been doing some TV appearances.
Yeah, we were on TV, both Liverpool TV and GMTV, with some children. One of them was Chloe, who's my 3-year-old highest achiever. She learned breaststroke, backstroke, front crawl, swam 1/4 mile, and at 4 years old she swam a mile. She was on television with Bella Dixon. Chloe achieved that in 4 courses, by the way, 20 lessons. So 3 years old, still 3 years old, and she could do all that. And then Bella Dixon, at 5 years old, the same, within about 4 courses from a non-swimmer, breaststroke, backstroke, front crawl, butterfly. She swam 1 mile and then she went on to do 2 miles because she just was itching to keep going. So, and Bella Dixon's actually gone on now. She's a little bit older. She's won something like 6 or 7 belts in Taekwondo. She's on the GB team and she's actually up for an award in a few weeks' time in Southport for Sports Star of the Year award. Sorry, I forgot what the full title is, but I nominated her. She deserves it.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, so as you know, Craig, going back to how I teach children to swim, one of the things I'll tell parents is that you can teach breaststroke arms at home. So if you sit a child against the wall, if you put them against the wall on the 2, as I call it, they're not going to go too far back. So you can just be in front of the child and we can go, show me a 1, thumbs down, push open, show me a 2. So that's where if you're in the middle of the room, the parents might do that, which is too much. So against the wall, it kind of stops you from going too far back on the 2, and then scoop up, show me a 3. So you can just show children simple movements at home. Same with the breaststroke leg kick. Again, sat down like we did on the pool side, show me a bend with the legs, show me a wide, show me a shut. So that's how I call, those are the words I use for breaststroke leg kick. So yeah, there's lots of things that you can sort of do at home to help teach your child to swim and give them basic movements when they get onto the pool, when they get into the water, rather.
We've been doing that in the bath with them. Nelly be shouting, bend wide shut, like this, literally with their legs.
You know what's a cute thing is that sometimes I'll get videos and the children are aware, and I get obviously off the phone, and the little girl will have the dolly going, kick, 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 that's it. Gail says kick, 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 and they become me on the with their little dolly sat on the couch. It's so cute.
Brilliant. Yeah. And on that note, we'll say thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Craig. It's been a pleasure and delight to see you.
My pleasure, Gail.
And you behave yourself or you're on the naughty step on Saturday.
I know. I tried to do as I'm told. I tried to.
Sometimes he gets his sweets.
Not always, though. Not always. The kids always do, but I don't.